drone.
Hey, we're here. We're alive.
I was just suggesting that Grayden get his drone out because the pictures, the start of Mayor's Update, doesn't have the clock at 6:30.
Yeah.
Right. And it's 6:15, so it's not far from right. But anyway, perfection. Yeah. Well, welcome everybody. And Michael Bradley, our new city manager here in St. Thomas, new to us last Wednesday, and been working hard and getting to know everybody. Tonight was the first council meeting. And there was no bloodshed. We did pretty good.
It was very civilized, actually.
Our council is always civilized.
Yeah, it was more civilized than normal. That's all I mean.
Well, the answer was, before we went on air, I suggested that we had Mayor's Update at 6:30, and so anybody who held it up was going to be punished somehow by the mayor.
Okay.
I wouldn't know what the punishment would be, but Councillor Herbert still asked way more questions than he needed to, and the rest had lots to say too. So we had a very good council meeting.
There was some fantastic clarification in there from Councillor McCulley as well, which we'll talk more about in terms of the $17 million for funding. But we should talk more to Michael Bradley.
We should. Michael, so you're coming to us from somebody who really knows this job. So tell us a bit about your background and what you see as the future in St. Thomas. Sure. That should take 20 or 30 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. 20 or 30 minutes. I don't know whether I can do 20 or 30 minutes, but thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Grayden for inviting me tonight. Hello, everyone joining us tonight. So my name is Michael Bradley. As I mentioned, I'm the new city manager here at the City of St. Thomas. And maybe just to clarify or to so you understand, a city manager is basically the senior most staff member in a municipality. And it's the only, in most municipalities, it's the only staff member that reports directly to council. And most of the other staff, in this case in St. Thomas, all the other staff report up through the city manager's office. So it's a daunting job, but also a very rewarding job. So I'm coming here from the city of Brantford. I was at the city of Brantford for about a year. I was the commissioner of community development. And previously I was with the county of Brant, which is just outside of Brantford. It's the municipality that surrounds the city of Brantford. And I was the chief administrative officer there. It's essentially the same position. We just give it a little bit of a different name. So I've been about 25 years now in the municipal broader municipal sector. I spent a number of years with the county of Brant, like I mentioned, and prior to that, I was with the local conservation authorities. So I've spent most of my career in the public sector, and I've had a very rewarding career, and I'm very happy to be here at St. Thomas. It is an amazing place with a very, very unique and just awesome bunch of things going on. And so in terms of what I think about...
we'll keep you busy. We've got a lot going on.
I will definitely not. With St. Thomas in particular, and how are we going to deliver that infrastructure? Demographic and the change of demographic that we're seeing in our world right now, social, cultural, age, it's just changing the nature of our community. And how do we make sure that everyone that wants to live here, that is living here, can be welcomed, can have access to all the same service? Will be a challenge for us. I think communication is a big one. And this is a great example, but communication, we're a rapidly changing world in terms of how we communicate with each other. It changes, not just on a year-to-year basis, but on a month-to-month basis. So how are we going to get our message as a municipality out to the members of our community? There's a lot of ways to do it, and what are the best ways to do it? How do we do it efficiently, and how do we do it in a way that's sustainable for us? So the last thing I think is just team building, and I say that at all levels. How do we build a team in our community? How does council work as a team with the community? How do we as staff work with council as a team? How do we all function as a big team? Those are the things that think about what's in its store for me here at St. Thomas. And
Well,
very excited.
Needless to say, a lot of conversations with the mayor, and they are not always prioritized. I just thought of something little, and you need to know about it, right? You know what the Barwick Street Bridge is? No, let's start with the top stuff.
Are you familiar with the Barwick Street Bridge yet?
I am now.
Yes, now
Yes. After this morning,
right? And so it's been great through the interview process that brought Michael to us. We had a lot of conversation about that growth thing, the team thing, and how everything is kind of churning at about the best speed it possibly can. And so moving forward is more about, let's get the stuff done we already know about. And as new things pop up, and what's been happening in St. Thomas over the last couple of years is there'll be no lack of new things that pop up. So, but we'll deal with those, and we keep talking. I think you and I have shared, we react way better sometimes than we plan, but we're just now, what perfect timing, because we're moving into our newest strategic plan, our outlook for the next year, 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years, looking out as to what can this city accomplish? Can these people in the council chambers accomplish? And what can the directors and the administrative side of the city do? Michael explained that the city manager in our case is but the CAO is also an apt title. And if you can think of the corporate world, there's a CAO and a CEO. Right? Mm-hmm. From the political side, the mayor would be the CEO and the chief executive officer and signing authority and that type of thing. And the CAO would be the chief administrative officer, and all the staff in the city report to the city manager. So it's a great relationship that has to be there. And Grayden, you got to see some of our relationship with Sandra and even Wendell, right? And this looks like the start of just as good. And I'm not sure we're quite sharing a brain yet, but it's getting close. It's when we can finish each other's sentences, we got what we want in our community. And perfect. Lots of great things going on. And I've been trying not to feed Michael with a fire hose. Right?
Really?
Oh, yeah, this is Joe taking it calm, right? So you're right. There is just so much. And it's been, get out there and get out there and share your thoughts and meet the counselors, meet the staff, and meet the leadership team here, which is like second to none. And get to know St. Thomas, because I occasionally say, well, just over on Center Street. Yeah, okay, I know where that is, but not everybody else does. Even some of our viewers sometimes, now they know where Center Street is.
I think Center Street is pretty,
Yeah, it's a home of four-way stops. No,
yes. It's being worked on. It's being worked on. Question for Michael.
Right.
There was a lot of competition for the job. You got it, which means council must be very, very happy with what you said in your interviews. So as a part of that, what are you most excited about developing and building in St. Thomas as the new city manager here?
I think what I'm most excited about is the mayor mentioned the strategic plan that St. Thomas has, which I think is an amazing plan. It was probably one of the reasons why I got real interested in St. Thomas after the job was posted, because I wanted to see a municipality that had a good plan, a good work plan that I knew I would be able to come in and have a really good, strong task list to go at. So, because it's hard to come in when you're not exactly sure what the community and what council wants you to do. So, so that was a real selling point for me. So one of the big things that I'm going to be working on for the next month with our leadership team is to develop an action plan for that strategic plan, because that's a real critical piece to make sure that strategic plan gets implemented. Having a bunch of actions, measurable actions that we can take on, that can become part of my work plan, so that we can implement what council wants to see.
Now, are there any particular parts in that strategic plan? I think it has several different components. Are there any particular ones you're more interested in, or they're kind of like your specialty?
I think that the plan had, it had, I think, what most municipalities are looking for, and what I even talked about, growth, infrastructure. So my background is heavy on those two areas. Municipal growth and municipal infrastructure. So I was pleased to see. First of all, I'm pleased to see that St. Thomas is building a lot, because I like to build things. But also there's a big focus. We have to grow. We have to grow sustainably. It's important to us. We're not resistant to growth, but we're cognizant that we have to do it right. That was a big appeal for me. And then, I really wanted to see a municipality that was committed to an infrastructure plan. I think as communities, we need a lot. We need more all the time. We see the value of municipal infrastructure, recreational assets, social assets, to make this a better place to live. And I really was looking for a municipality that had a lot of those features in its plans.
Does anybody else recognize that's exactly what we've been saying for the last 4 years?
Yeah.
That St. Thomas is going to grow. And so let's do smart things to make sure the growth is smart.
Yeah.
And so obviously when we're interviewing Michael and he's saying some of the same things, it made us really take a look and go, we got this far on a very smart plan. Now we're starting a second very smart plan, and it may be even more detailed and with more depth. Boy, let's bring somebody on who also believes in what we believe in. So perfect.
Yeah, and like we've talked about, it's crucial that you have that smart growth within the community, because if you don't, then you're fixing those problems for decades to come, and you're cleaning up messes.
Well, and some municipalities that grew too quickly without a good plan have never been able to fix those issues. They've got traffic bottlenecks or servicing bottlenecks that they may never be able to get to. And by us looking that far out and have the same conversations with council, and as you saw tonight, even at council, wait, did we talk about that? Do we know that's where we're at?
Yeah.
Is what we're supposed to do? Yes. And no, did we never, the conversation needs to get deeper as part of this next strategic plan. So it's perfect. We got a couple questions.
Yeah, we got a question from Adam Montgomery, and he says, what city plans are in the works that we may not know about?
Well, we could tell you, but we'd have to kill you.
No, that's not.
Okay. Maybe that's a line from a movie, so we won't use it. We've got quite a bit of strategy coming up, a lot of city growth coming up, and I'll let Michael answer it too. But some of it is still in negotiations with the province and the federal government, and so we some of it we can't be absolutely transparent. But I think we're being pretty open with what we're doing. We voted tonight on our debenturing of 17 million based on what we know we're doing at Yarmouth Yards, and we talked about rebuilding our wastewater plant. We talked about the open meeting for our second wastewater plant. So yes, those are all things that not everybody across the community knows about, but we're trying to be and have open meetings on as many of these things as we possibly can.
So there is more affordable housing that's coming to the city of St. Thomas. What it means for the taxpayers, there'll be about a 1% increase based on that. No? Was that?
Well, if we didn't grow at all, that would be what that would cost.
Correct.
And that was the point with the treasurer tonight where I was talking this. Certainly in the past years, we've kept taxes at a fairly low rate because we had growth from the year before that also paid some of those bills.
Right.
So sometimes, even though there'll be some new bills, borrowing costs for us to move forward and knowing in the future that some of those industrial facilities that were now coming to St. Thomas will help pay a lot of future bills. Even as you're growing with new housing, there's a lot of new taxation coming in on some of those big housing developments. And so that helps us temper that a little bit.
We have another question in from Brett Longfield. It says, how will sustainability be ensured through the city's growth?
Okay.
I can give that.
Yeah, give it a shot.
And sustainability, there's a lot of ways that we can achieve sustainability as the city grows. The biggest way we can do it is through good policy. And so the city's working on a new official plan. That's a critical document about how that's our roadmap to growth.
Yep.
And so, it can just say we're going to grow, or it can say we're going to grow in certain ways. And that's where we can build sustainability into it. We can build sustainability into how growth is going to happen, how natural areas are going to be buffered, for example, so that that's more environmentally sustainable. We can, as parts of that official plan, we can create guidelines to encourage green building approaches, to encourage better energy management in new buildings. So that's how we can ensure sustainability. And then to the mayor's point, then financial sustainability is something too.
Right.
And that's, again, that pathway to growth can provide us with financial sustainability, making sure that we have, we're building appropriate infrastructure, not overbuilding it, not underbuilding it, so that the costs of growth are not downloaded to the taxpayers.
And Brent, you asked also, what does smart growth plans include? Well, in our last strategic plan, it included jobs. And so we went out and set up an industrial park that could grow and create jobs and good paying jobs for the youth of our future and build it. That's one of the smart growth plans. But the other smart growth plans include making the city's streets passable and well built, and planning for the future traffic that may be caused by the growth in the community, and that's a smart growth piece. Now, do you add parks to that too? I do, because that means there's this many more people choosing St. Thomas as their home. So the smart growth was, if we had this much before and now we've grown to this, what will that mean we need to have? The smart growth is it. And also because of the stuff that's buried underground, whether it's servicing and wastewater or water or all of the services that cities have to have, has to be planned out ahead, that the capacity is there for us to grow in the directions we've planned to grow, and have that many new people choose St. Thomas as their home. So that's the smart part of the smart growth. So our new strategic plan is smart plan number 2, I guess. That's the way to look at it. So, perfect.
2.0.
Yeah, okay.
That's
Then
the modern vernacular.
2.1. Yeah.
Yeah, 2.1 AB.
Yeah.
Like AB. Okay, and then Adam Montgomery also says, with the city getting so big and us having 6 Tim Hortons, are we not due for a second Wendy's?
Yes.
The mayor owns the Wendy's in town, so this is a very personal question.
Yeah. So the answer is yes. Let's. Can the mayor have a day off so he can work at his Wendy's? Some of it is about the growth in all businesses, and as you've seen in this community, as the new chair of the Downtown Development Board, how much more commercial space is being taken up, even in our core.
Yeah.
How much new commercial space is built, mostly at one end of our downtown, right? And all the facilities that communities want are based on growth. If you're growing, you will get I remember being here when, I wish we had a theater.
Yeah.
Right? I wish we had a Winners. I wish we had a superstore would be nice, or even back far enough back, I wish we had a Walmart. Well, all of these things happen with growth.
Yep.
Right?
And we're in a very exciting time right now. I'm sure you're aware of PowerCo. Do you have any thoughts on PowerCo coming into the community with that being built right now? Are you allowed to talk about it?
Yes.
I mean, certainly it's probably one of the more exciting projects going on in the province right now. I mean, for me, it's a thrill to be a part of.
Right.
One of the projects that I was very proud of from when I was at the county of Brant was building a large industrial park. It's a big undertaking, and but it is also very rewarding. You get to meet different players in the industry and in industries. You come in contact with very unique. I'm always awed at how unique all of the private businesses in all of our communities. You learn so much about what people do for their livings when you bring new business into a community. So yeah, it's really exciting, and obviously it'll certainly be the largest project that I'll ever be involved with, and most of us here at the city. So.
Well, we agree. We have a hugely great industrial base now. Some fantastic industries out there. We're also learning how some of them can also help support PowerCo. Well, that's fantastic in its own right. You're already here being successful in St. Thomas, but by the way, another part of your company makes trays for batteries for cars. Well, wouldn't that be a good thing to build in St. Thomas? And so why don't we all talk about how we can make that happen? We've got Element 5 right now, one of the largest and most sought after cross-laminated timber builders. And to make that make sense, to make wooden buildings tall with solid cross-laminated timbers, now being one of the most sought after building facilities in our province, if not in our country. Yeah. So, and what are they doing?
They're expanding more than double their production capacity right in St. Thomas.
Because they also know that building housing in St. Thomas is a pretty good place to be right now. So we're looking at not only what the future looks like, but what the other businesses in town and how they can take advantage of this too. It's a smile on almost everybody's face right now, and I'll be happy to try and find somebody that can find something wrong with a sunny day. I think I said that in a speech once. But there are people like, let us do our growth, right? And Brett says mass timber is the future, and the future is right now with Element 5 and the doubling of their production facility right now, and we don't think that's going to be enough. They're going to have to go bigger and better than that. And we haven't put one piece of steel in the ground at PowerCo yet. We haven't collected one bit of building permit from them. We'll start pouring pads soon. That will click that in. But and we also don't collect taxes on them for a number of years to come as they build their factory and start operating. But the excitement it's caused in Southern Ontario and around us of other industries saying, I want to be near that. That's very good. That's what I'm looking for. And we shared a couple of weeks ago about the supplier week with PowerCo and how exciting it was to find other companies that are going, me too. I want to build in St. Thomas. We've got lots of decisions to make in the next little while. So how good it is. So we'll take it, right?
Yeah.
If we can keep this weather, I'd also be very happy.
Well, I know they're doing very well right now in terms of the final phase for the pad, for the PowerCo plant. And so it's going really, really well, and they're ahead of schedule, which is just fantastic.
Well, I mentioned the weather. I don't say good things about the weather just because I want to go walk in it. It's helping that site also be able to determine that it can meet its time goals and move forward. So it's great.
And the Beehive episode for this week is all about Element 5.
Wow. See, this was timely.
Very timely.
Grayden films all of the Beehive episodes too. Yeah. And we let some tall guy named Mike be the
very
lead
talented
character. Yeah.
One of the smartest guys in the city of St. Thomas, I think. Mike Kirkley.
Does he owe you something or something?
No, he doesn't owe me anything.
Brett asked us, how's affordability being considered amidst the unprecedented growth?
What a great question, Brett.
That's kind of what we were saying.
Just at council today.
Well, at council today, because we've set aside in this year's budget, knowing affordable growth in our community was needed, we set aside a budget of dollars that we would need to do as building projects came our way. You saw last week, and we spoke a bit last week about Eastwood and what they're doing with their 82 units of affordable. And we immediately, as a city council, jumped in and said, yes, we'll support that with $3 million, and then we'll help you use our by names list and our lists of people looking for housing to fill those affordable spots you have. We hope to run into quite a bit more of that type of affordability. We all know where we are I'm pointing towards Tiny Hope and how we can finish that this year and also bring in a number of new people who need housing of that type and looking forward it. So lots of affordable housing coming too. Part of the reason, and we've also talked about it in the past, part of the way to accomplish affordability is also by increasing supply. So by having cranes in the air and even the refurbishing of single family homes into triplexes, the CIP plan getting more people involved in building apartments above stores in the downtown. These are all parts of the supply and demand issue on housing. The more housing we can get of every type in our community, then let's do it. All right. And you let me know when we get too much, because I can't yet picture it. It's with our growth the way it is, we are doing considerably better than other municipalities because we're thinking about it. So, but don't let the foot off the gas right now on any of those smart growth things we're talking about. Because if other industries want to come here, we better have land for them. If our Parks Department wants to do some special thing in Parks and Rec and our recreational facilities, then we can't let our foot off the gas on the growth, because that's what pays for that kind of stuff too.
Absolutely. Now, Michael, was this your first St. Thomas council meeting?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
How did you find it? How was everybody?
It was great. It's
Yeah.
First of all, the counselors were all very welcoming. They all came to drop by my office before the meeting and welcomed me and said they were so happy that I'm here, which was very touching that they
Yeah.
did that. It's a very laid back atmosphere, very professional. I think staff were clearly very comfortable talking to council. Questions were all great. So I had a really enjoyable evening here. So
It was like without missing a step. It's
Yeah.
really good. Well, look, we will run into things we don't all agree on,
Yeah.
and the fact that the first meeting got to be one of those fairly good ones, right? Where we moved, we had no closed session tonight, so it was all in open council, and that's the type of communication. And Michael mentioned it in his opening statement that the communication of what we're doing is equally important to doing it. And that's why we do Mayor's Update, obviously, for that open forum to talk about what's happening in the city and answer some of your tough questions. Every Tuesday night at 6:30, we want to do this. We want to make sure that when we pass something here at council, if you want to ask a question about it, we can tell you why we did it and how we did it. That's the communication piece.
Absolutely.
It is harder. You and I are both a little old. But newspapers have gone away, right? Radio stations, there isn't a real news or talk station as much as there used to be. And so we have to get our feedback, at least at the municipal level. It was always tough, even when there was newspapers, even when there was local talk shows. Right. So something like Mayor's Update or the Beehive or the other pieces that we're doing and sharing what we're doing in our community have become even more important.
And like you're saying, get that communication out there, because there's so many times where we'll talk about something on the Mayor's Update and then people will be like, why didn't I hear about that, a month ago? Because it's like it's after the motion's passed, the thing's happening. You're like, what? I had no idea. But we have talked about it on the Mayor's Update before. They just didn't catch that episode.
Well, and we had Malcolm last week to talk about St. Thomas happenings, where a whole lot of news gets out in St. Thomas. Not all of it really accurate, right? But it's the place where I heard this on Mayor's Update. So here's what Mayor Joe and Grayden said. Now becomes this, wow, that's got credibility then. And so it's a great way to make it work. Right?
Yeah, and you can clarify the things, because in council, there's a motion, all the councilors have read it.
Right.
And they say, make a motion, they'll pass it, and it'll move on. But you might not know exactly what that might mean. So like today, for example, like I already mentioned, it was the 17 million that's getting passed for Yarmouth Yards as well as the affordable housing. And Councilor McCulley was like, okay, can we bring this into layman's terms? That doesn't always happen.
Right. What does that mean? If it was just sitting there, what would 17 million mean in a tax increase tomorrow, if indeed that had to happen? And as the treasurer said, about 650,000 on our budget is equal to 1% in a tax increase. So we can borrow 10 million for about that same amount. So if we borrow $10 million, if we debenture $10 million and look to the future, then on that basis alone, it can be 1% in tax increase, provided there's no other growth in our community to also temper that. So you're right. It was great sometimes we sit here, and I know Councillor Wookie does a lot, and Councillor McCauley does a pretty good job of it too, of saying, for the folks at home, that means this, because we get kind of navel gazing about what a debenture is and what a tax point is and those types of things. And we really want to share that we think we're managing your dollars well. They're not our dollars. The people out here give them to us to make the city a better place and to grow the city. So we want to make sure.
Now, I'm going to throw in another quick question from my wife, Jess. She's wondering about when the splash pads are going to open in the city of St. Thomas.
We are a few days behind the other municipalities around us. And I did notice that over this weekend, because a few people were mentioning it. So I'm sorry, but I meant to talk to Mr. Bray about it tonight. He was not here. I would assume, I think the 1st of June has been our opening day in past years. So others got ahead of us 4 or 5 days this week, but we'll be right there.
Absolutely. At Montgomery is saying,
Now that Jess has asked, I can't not do it.
that's right. Jess and Lily. She's like, when are they opening? It was a great day today. We're at Waterworks. They weren't open. When are they opening? She's like, I probably should know. It's probably been mentioned, but can you ask on the mayor's update?
Well, we did.
So, at Montgomery is saying, if you really want a lot of viewers and answers, we should really bring in Dr. Phil as a guest.
Yeah.
And everyone will tune in.
Well, how's that working out for you?
Ah.
I got a million Dr. Phil stuff. No, you
That's
want the
like-
real Dr. Phil?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a whole nother level. So I'm going in. We're running to the end of our time here. Now we did have a little bit of a disconnect right at the beginning.
Yes.
When Michael was first doing his intro, the internet dropped out a little bit there. So I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all the questions for today as well as the questions from last time.
week, but we've got them all. We'll keep piling them up. We'll need to do an hour-long show at some point and
just-
only give half an hour to Rogers and do the rest of the
Just
show
get through all the
for
questions.
the people who walk us.
But I think there's one final question I want to wrap up with, which I think is really good from Brett, and it's about what does Michael think of the need for leadership from the younger demographics on council and throughout city staff?
Great question.
Yeah, it is a good question. I mean, I think it's the mayor called me old a few minutes ago.
That's why I
knew
thought it was very
gonna get
timely.
that one
That's what I was
back.
like,
Yeah.
But I think, so I'm certain I can say that I'm in the later stages of my career, but it's certainly incumbent upon me to be coaching and mentoring and I shouldn't say younger, because that's maybe not but the early career folks in our organization, because they're going to inherit this organization someday.
Agreed.
And so I think it's been when I first chatted with council, they asked me about things that I was proud of, and I said I'm very proud of the fact that some of my previous mentors have gone on to do great things. And I take that very importantly. So I think for me at a later stage in my career, I have to spend more time with those earlier career employees, earlier career staff members, and even early members of council, maybe first-time members of council, and impart what I know, talk about some of my experiences, but also listen to their feedback, because they see the future differently than maybe I do. So I think that's something that I have to. And I have said that, and we've chatted already with our senior leadership team that one of our jobs right now is to make sure that we have a succession plan in place so that the organization has a good, strong future.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's one of the things we've seen in Canadian politics, whether it's municipal, provincial, or federal. If you don't have that succession plan, if you don't allow others to grow into their roles, then you have a massive gap at the municipal level.
Well, we talked a lot during the hiring process for Michael, but also the opposite is true. When some great young people sent us resumes and talked to us, and we said, that's an incredible employee, somebody's going to lose because they're out looking, right? And we want to make sure that when we talk to our leadership team and the other members of our employment base, that we're keeping the best of the best. St. Thomas has got there because we have it, and we want to make sure we can come up with rewarding ways of keeping them. But as I've found in my business, and I'm sure we say the same thing at the city. We just discussed it when Sandra left us. We have to also celebrate when people move on to something that's better for them.
Yeah.
Right. And wish them well and say congratulations, in the case of Sandra, to London, to say our relationship just got 100% better because we know we're sending somebody there who does that well. Yeah. Right. So we have to look at the mix of our employees. Right. Do I wish everybody was as smart as they are now at 20, and we would have been, but all of that is good. And we have to make sure we're looking at the demographic, matching the community, not just in age, right, but also in the diversity that our community now currently has. And we have to make sure, I saw the diversity plan come up from the police today, and incredibly good work about what they need to look like as a police services in 2025, right? How we get there. So it's not just age or demographics, it's also diversity.
Yep. Okay. Absolutely. Well, we're at the end of our time.
Wait, is that just because I'm older?
No.
Oh, you mean the show? Okay, good. The show.
But it's been fantastic. And Michael, we really appreciate you joining us on the show. This is
Thank
your first, basically your first week in St. Thomas, and
Yep.
you're here with us talking to people. So
What other community gets that?
yeah,
I don't think any.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why we want something like Mayor's Update to
Mhm.
show off what we do and talk about why we did it. So you've got
Mhm.
more questions today, and you will after you watch this as the week goes on. Please pile up your questions so we can have a whole show that is just questions. Now, I believe next week we have special guests,
we
right?
do. We have very special guests from the St. Thomas's Food Bank,
Right.
and they're going to be here. Karen McDade and Sarah Coleman.
We love having Sarah. She just makes my shopping so much better. So,
Yeah, and she can save you
Karen,
thousands.
love Karen too, but
Absolutely.
so happy to have them next week. And so maybe in a week after or the week after, we'll get caught up on all these questions we haven't got to.
One of these days, but also for the most important ones, we're going to get through them all.
Right.
And then we'll get to the other ones as we go. As the ones that are the ones that are really time sensitive, we're going to make sure we hit those ones. The ones that we can stretch out a little bit longer, we might get to them in a couple weeks. But we appreciate all the viewers. We appreciate all your questions, and we appreciate that both of you have taken your time to join the community in this Q&A, this live
Well,
Q&A.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Well, see, now we got people liking our guests for next week.
I
This is
love it.
Oh, tease them a little. This is perfect. Yeah.
All right,
right.
everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Good night.
Have a great week.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you on the next one.